Alright, today we're going to do something called modifiers, and modifiers in grammar I think could be very, very tricky. They basically describe nouns or verbs, right? They add color to basically very boring sentences, right? Or they could actually completely change the meaning of sentences. So let's look at this for example over here. Okay, so this one over here, the first one says, the cat bit Steve under the tree. So remember, always identify the subject first, and then the verb, which is bit over here, and then what did it bite? It bit Steve. It's an object over here, right? Under the tree. So this one, the modifier is actually under the tree. So, but what is it modifying over here? Right? What is it modifying? It's modifying the action bit, right? So the cat bit Steve under the tree, right? So this under the tree is modifying bit. Let's look at this one, which looks very, very similar. Okay, on the bottom, it says the cat under the tree bit Steve. Now, again, the modifier is under the tree. Okay, under the tree. But this time, it means something different, right? The cat under the tree, so under the tree is modifying cat, bit Steve. Right? So, what is the difference in meaning? The first sentence says, you know, the cat and, so this is my tree, and this is my friend Steve, right? The cat, sorry, I can't draw this thing's awful. The cat bit Steve on the tree, meaning what? The whole action of the cat over here, this is my cat, bit Steve, took place under the tree. But the second one says, that cat right now that is under the tree over here, bit my friend Steve here. Right? Oh, actually, no, I shouldn't say that. Bit my friend Steve. Right? That cat under the tree, right, bit my friend Steve. I hope you get the difference in meaning. Right? But what I'm trying to show you is that even though you could have the exact same words, right, if you put the modifier too far away or too close, it could change the meaning of the sentence. Right? And I'm sure you have seen examples on the SAT where they put like thinking, and then you should put a subject next to it because it could be a dangling or misplaced modifier, right? And then it changes the meaning of the sentence, right? So let's look at this one. This one says, on the bottom, I'm over here where it says almost. Almost everyone passed the physics exam. Okay? And the next one says, everyone almost passed the physics exam. So which one says they all failed? Okay? Take a second, pause for a second, and think about which one says they all failed. Okay? If you guessed this one, you're correct. Why? Because this one up top, the first sentence, almost is the modifier. Right? Almost is the modifier. Well, physics exam. Exam is the object over here. Physics could be a modifier. But in this case, this adverb over here almost is modifying which part over here? Everyone, is it modifying everyone or is it modifying past? That's what you should ask. Right? It's actually modifying everyone. So almost everyone passed the physics exam. Meaning what? A couple people failed. Right? But the one on the bottom, everyone almost passed, this adverb almost is actually modifying past. It says everyone almost passed. Meaning what? They all failed. Right? So I think it's very, very critical that you understand the placement of modifiers completely changes the meaning of sentences. Okay? Alright, so let's look at this question. It says, during Mike's most recent holiday, he came across a breathtaking mural wandering in the old part of town. So take a second to look at this question, pause, okay? And then I'll explain where this went wrong, right? So obviously there's something wrong, okay? So during Mike's most recent holiday. So most recent is, you know, modifying holiday, right? So he came across, right? And who is he referring to? Mike. Whoops. It's referring to Mike. He came across, the idiom came across is not wrong. This prepositional phrase, I think a lot of people want to force an error, but there's nothing wrong. Mural is a wall painting, right? Type in mural in Google and you'll find a bunch. Maybe some of them you've seen, right? Wandering in the old part of town. So the answer is D over here. And let's look at why. Okay, this wandering in the old part of town is modifying what? It's modifying mural, right? So how can the wall painting, right, be wandering in old part of town, right? Unless you're anthropomorphizing mural, there's no way this can be possible, right? So, during Mike's most recent holiday, meaning vacation, he came across a breathtaking mural. I don't know how you would fix this. Maybe you could say, like, while wandering, because you want to say Mike is wandering, right? While wandering in the old part of town during Mike's most recent holiday, he came across, right? You're gonna have to swap things around a lot to make this more logical, right? I know you guys are thinking, wait, there's nothing wrong with the sentence, because you're thinking that, who's doing the wandering? He is, and who is he? It's Mike. But that's not what the sentence logically says, right? How often does this error come out in this section? Very, very rare. It's very, very rare on the error ID section, right? But on the improving sentences, this error is very, very common. I guarantee it comes out on the test at least 3 or 4 times as an error. Alright, let's try another one. This one says, by including light, touch, proximity, and other sensors into the smartphone, Paul Jobs' innovation had an important influence on contemporary technology. Okay? So, like any question, remember, even in reading it, start by identifying the subject, right? Over here, this is a prepositional phrase modifying Stephen Jobs. Or is it Jobs or is it innovation? That's what you should think about, right? So this error, very, very common on the improving sentence section, usually has to change to a person, right? Whatever this is modifying. Except, look over here. The subject over here is innovation, not a person, right? So, I know you're thinking, oh, Steve Jobs integrated all this stuff, right? And which had an impact on modern technology, right? But this actually says innovation, right? By including light, touch, proximity sensors, innovation had an important influence, right? Which is wrong. You need a person over here. Okay, so A is wrong. Remember, A on the improved sentences is the same as the original sentence, but on the paragraph editing, A is not the same, right? So a lot of kids actually get tricked. In paragraph editing, I'll discuss this later. A is not the same as A, or actually, the original sentence is not the same as A in paragraph editing. Let's look at B. B says, this innovation of Steve Jobs was important in its influence over. Well, this is all kinds of wrong, right? First of all, the idiom is influence on, not over. And this one, again, the subject is innovation. Well, specifically this innovation. They're using this demonstrative noun, this, right, as the subject, right? So by including all this stuff, this did this, which is wrong. Okay. What about this one? This one could be tricky because it starts again with Steve Jobs, except it's not, right? It has the apostrophe. Is it important? Is important the noun? No, it's not. Innovative, now this time is the adjective. Before it was a noun. The subject over here is actually influence. So by including light, touch, proximity, and all the stuff, influence was on contemporary technology. Makes no sense. You need a person. So you're left with D and E, and remember, SAT always gives you 2 answers that are very, very close. 3 are garbage, and you could probably eliminate them pretty quickly. So this one says, Steve Paul Jobs was influential. Good. This is awesome, right? By including, who included this? Steve Jobs, right? Was influential with his innovation over contemporary technology. Well, you probably noticed one thing because I mentioned before. It should be had an influence on, right? And that's what it says on the original sentence. Right? It says that in the original sentence, so it can't be over. Another thing that's wrong with this sentence is they're making this extra, right? By putting comma, comma, okay? Which is not how it's stated in the original sentence. If you have a question about this, we're putting commas everywhere. I know commas could be very, very daunting, but they're actually really, really helpful and logical. So if you put comma, if you have questions on them, watch a positive lecture. I think it will really help you. Okay. So that is questionable over here because of the idiom and putting this extra. So you're really left with E. And E says the innovative Steve Jobs. Again, the subject over here is Jobs, right? And Jobs had an important influence on contemporary technology, which is modern technology, making E the answer. So innovative is modifying Steve Jobs, but this whole sentence by including, who's doing the including? Jobs is doing the including, right? So that's correct. Alright, so let's look at this one. It says, with millions of Earth-like exoplanets yet to be discovered, some argue that additional telescope technology investments are necessary. Right away, remember, you need to start with the subject and then the verb, which is over here, right? So this one says, some argue. Some is people over here, some people, right? Argue, right? What did they argue? That we need to spend more money. That's what it says, right? And then you could check the part that's underlined over here. They want you to fix this. It says, with millions of Earth-like exoplanets. So what they're saying is, the subject next to it that is modifying has millions of exoplanets. That makes no logical sense, right? And this kind of error comes out often, especially with dangling modifiers, where they give you some kind of ing participle phrase, and then the subject does not match at all. So this one, millions of people cannot have, or, sorry, that's wrong. Some people cannot have millions of planets on them. That's what A logically says, right? That's what it says, right? What about B? We'll skip B for now. It could be a possible answer. We'll just get rid of all the modifier errors, right? So C says, by thinking that there is millions of Earth-like planets. So the main idea over here is thinking. By this thinking, right? Yet to be discovered, some argue. By this thinking. I mean, see if that makes any sense at all. I know thinking, who can do the thinking? Some people, right? But the original sentence says, we have so many planets, and this is the reason why we should, spend more money. That's the logic that they're trying to convey, right? So it can't be C. What about D? D is actually pretty good. It says, aware of the Earth-like exoplanets in the millions. So who is aware? The people. Some over here, right? But the thing is, the original sentence, remember, try to stick to the original sentence as best as possible. It says there's millions of Earth-like planets. That's the original idea, millions. But over here, the millions is put so far away, it loses the effect, right? It says, aware of the Earth-like exoplanet. That's the main idea. This is the prepositional phrase that's modifying this part over here, right? So you need to put millions in the front, and the millions of what? Planets, right? So it can't be D. So you have to pick between A and E. B and E, and remember I said because is, because gives a reason, and which I think that's what they want you to look for, right? So let's look at this. E says, because millions of Earth-like exoplanets have yet to be discovered, means we haven't found them yet, but they're out there. Some argue, people argue, right? And remember, this is a dependent clause. Millions of exoplanets have yet to be discovered, right? Dependent clause and independent clause sentence, right? If you don't know clauses, go look at the videos I made, right? Because, there's millions of planets we haven't discovered, we need to spend money. That's what E says. So, which is better? Is it B or E? B says, because of Earth-like exoplanets in the millions, right? Again, this thing is the same thing as this error in D. They're putting the millions in the back, right? Even though they're giving a reason, right? And again, this is just a phrase. It's not a clause like over here, like a dependent clause. And how can you check? It says millions of Earth-like exoplanets have yet to be discovered. That can stand alone as a sentence, but this millions is far away, it could be closer, and is simply a phrase that really doesn't do anything. Okay, so the answer is E.